So let's just recap on the understanding we have. We were talking about these potential amendments to the bill. The bill is to hold an election in December. The Prime Minister wants it on the 12th. Well, apparently the only amendment selected, we'll get it confirmed in a short while, is actually the one which proposes the 9th of December as the day for the election. And those people who wanted to amend the bill in terms of giving voting rights to EU residents here in the UK, that's not been selected, or indeed lowering the voting age for the election for 16 and 17-year-olds, that's not been selected either. So it seems that it's a simple matter of one amendment to be discussed in the committee stage of the bill, which will come up very shortly. And just to underline again, this bill is meant to clear all of its common stages this evening. By 8 o'clock tonight, roughly, it is meant to clear all its common stages so that it can become law in a matter of days. So let's bring in Maddy Thimont Jack once again from the Institute for Government. Now, if that's the understanding, Maddy, that this is the... Does it surprise you, first of all, that that would be the amendment choice?
No, not particularly. As we were just discussing, I think the fact that the bill was so limited in scope meant the idea of changing how we do elections, particularly through a bill that's only going to be debated in a mere 6 hours in the House of Commons, I think it would have been quite surprising if it had been selected. And I think my understanding, the Deputy Speaker will have taken advice of clerks in the Commons, and they'll would presumably have said, actually, it does just seem to be out of scope of this bill.
So that leaves MPs with what choice later when they come to the vote?
So they will be able to vote on whether to hold an election on the 9th of December. And if the opposition MPs, if there's not a majority in favour of amending the bill to say it will be held on the 9th of December, then the choice really will be for opposition parties. Do they still back the idea of having an early election, and are they willing to support the government in holding an election on the 12th of December? And sort of looking at it from the other perspective, if they do pass the 9th of December amendment, then the choice for the government will be, is that okay? Will we go with that? So it'll be quite interesting to see either way what MPs will end up deciding to do.
There'll be lots of people watching thinking, why are they quibbling about 3 days? I mean, if it's going to be an election in the week of the 9th of December, whether it's the 9th, 10th, 11th or 12th, what's the problem here? So is it political game playing, or is there more significance to the choice of date?
So there are sort of two aspects to this. Initially, when the 9th of December was suggested rather than the 12th, it was sort of around this idea of whether the government could still pass its Brexit deal before dissolving Parliament. So if you have an election on the 9th of December, Parliament would need to be dissolved at the end of this week. If it's the 12th of December, it won't need to be dissolved until next Wednesday. So it would have given the government a bit more time to get its implementing Brexit bill through. I think now the government has said it wouldn't try and do that anyway. We've also got a much more reduced timetable anyway at this point. So there's now a sort of a bit of a discussion about whether or not students are going to be around to vote. And if actually it's the 12th of December, there won't be as many students in some of the constituencies which some opposition parties might be concerned about. I think that actually it only applies to a few universities. It's not clear whether this actually would have a significant impact in terms of how the vote would go.
So if that's the case, is it fair to assume that, the debate actually, now that the Brexit legislation argument is kind of out of the way, that the debate is really not down to sort of very big sort of principles. It's to do with personal taste on timing?
I think that has become part of it. I mean, it is worth saying that from the government's perspective, the reason they now say that they actually can't move the date to the 9th is because they need to pass some Northern Ireland legislation, and they don't think they'd have time to do it before dissolving Parliament on Friday. So that could end up being quite persuasive for some of their MPs, and we will have to wait and see whether it is persuasive enough to get them to oppose the 9th of December date.
What's your sense of things right now? Given that we've heard from Chucko and the Lib Dems, who, the SNP earlier were very clear, they want an election. Labour today coming out saying that after lots of internal debate, and Vicky was telling us, lots of Labour MPs, not thrilled with the idea of an election. There are Tory MPs as well, by the way, who question the wisdom of this. They say, well, we could be putting the Brexit legislation through, not putting legislation through for an election. So it's not clear-cut, is it, at all?
No, and I think you've outlined it exactly right. I mean, I don't think we can predict the outcome of the vote. I think it will be very difficult for the Labour sort of leadership to row back on the fact that this morning they said they would be willing to back an early election, and if they end up quibbling over the date, I'm not sure how well that would play publicly. So there's probably quite a lot of pressure there. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see rebellions in both parties, or all parties really. It does seem like there are splits within many of them, and we will probably have to wait and see. And I think It's not clear whether the date will end up being the deciding factor or not, and it might be that actually the pressure for an early election has just got too strong, and actually MPs feel they should be voting for it.
Not long to wait.
Not long to wait.
We'll find out, Maddy. Thanks very much once again.